but not before we talk about some other news and a guy who could have an impact with the Yankees or the Mets. Probably better chance of Yankees. That would be the Japanese pitcher, Yu Darvish. He is asked to be posted, so there's now a 4-day window for teams to submit bids for him. And then, of course, the winning team gets a 30-day right to negotiate with him and try and bring him over here. So let's talk about Yu Darvish. It took a while, Jack, for him to finally say, yes, I want to be posted. Now, if you want to get in the game, you better step up with some dollars, right?
Right. The belief was that it always would happen, but you're right. It took maybe a little longer than we expected. But in talking to some of the Japanese reporters who have covered Darvish and who have seen him pitch, they say he wants to get more than Matsuzaka. Now, we have to separate Matsuzaka's contract with what the posting fee was. Remember when the Red Sox won the bids to negotiate with Matsuzaka, $51.1 million. Then they signed him to a $52 million contract. So you're investing over $100 million. Darvish wants more than that 52, but what's the number that a team is going to have to put out there to earn the right to negotiate with him? Oddly enough, I was talking to C.J. Wilson about Darvish, and he brought up the fact that $100 million when it's a pitcher who you haven't seen pitch against major league hitters, and you don't know if this guy is going to have sustained success, that's a lot for a team to put out there.
It is a big risk. Want to get to a question via Facebook from Tony Smith, and he says, with Darvish being posted and the Yankees being so quiet during the winter meetings, is this the move that the Yankees finally make some noise with, John?
Yeah, I'm not so sure that it is. I think they like Yu Darvish very much based on their scouting reports. They've spent a lot of time looking at him, and they think he is terrific. They love his poise. They love his stuff, but they have a bad history right here with the Japanese pitchers, obviously. Keiagawa, Hideki Irabu, neither one of them really panned out, especially Igawa was basically a waste of the $44 million or $46 million, whatever, I've lost track, whatever it was a waste of money. So I think they're going to go in there a little bit reluctant to go crazy for this, and frankly, I'll be a little bit surprised if they do get him.
But I think the Yankees are going to look very closely. But for them to be the team that comes out being the high bidder, what you have to believe is going to be a significant sum of money. I'm with John. I'd be surprised, and there's probably a legion of people watching who'll say, well, you can't compare Darvish to Igawa and Irabu. He's a different pitcher. It's not fair to him to paint everybody with the same brush. But if you're the Yankees, how can you not look at that? Because Igawa had so much trouble, and Irabu, though he had little spurts of success, also just didn't acclimate to pitching in the United States and having a long history of success with the Yankees.
And if you dig into the history of Japanese players coming over to the major leagues, you know, you have to kind of grade out each guy individually, but you look at Daisuke, Keiagawa, Kazushi, these were not great, impactful players. Daisuke, maybe a year or two, you can make the argument. Has Ichiro been that for the Mariners? Absolutely. But, John, overall, it is a bit buyer beware. Can they make that? Can they translate to the American game?
Well, you know, and I think Nomo was a terrific pitcher. He came over here and pitched more than a decade and really did a great job. And there were a couple other guys, Hasegawa, Sasaki, only pitched for 3 years, but he was really good with the Mariners. I think, by and large, the pitchers have been better than the position players. Fukudome has just been a complete bust for $40 million or whatever that was. I think the pitchers are better. Just the Yankees' history with the pitchers has not been good.
And just one little thing, Jack, to draw a parallel from what we've seen in the past. Remember when Daisuke came over and he had the gyro ball and he could throw whatever it was, 6 or 7 different pitches? I read something today about Darvish that he has 7 pitches. And I just, hang on, 2-seam and 4-seam is still a fastball. You know what I mean? He doesn't have all these crazy pitches.
Yeah, and we never saw that gyro ball, by the way, with Matsuzaka. That was a myth. And though Nomo did have success here, I think teams, when they look at the history of Japanese pitchers, they're going to look at what has happened most recently. And Matsuzaka, that just didn't work out for the Red Sox. Now, he was part of a World Series winning team, so you have to give him credit for that. He had another year where he won 18 games. But I think if you look at the big picture, how he clashed with management and wanted to do things his way, as a guy who didn't want to throw a strike, was always nibbling around the edges, a ton of talent, but just wanted to do things his way. And I wonder if the Red Sox, despite getting a title out of that, if they could go back in history, I'm not sure they would make that move again.
All right, guys.